I know for a fact that I'm not alone in seeing this screen. It's a roadblock that can cripple the flow of your gameplay and the progress of your roster if you don't have a good solution to chop through it all. Wouldn't it be nice if you saw this instead? Getting mods is easy, it's selling them that's the hard part. So let's try to break things down into a more approachable system. There's two separate categories of mods you're dealing with if you've been following this series up until now. Selling mods you got after you started this method, and selling mods from before. The reason for this is that selling mods when you use this method actually ends up being pretty fast and easy. The default sorting in the sell screen reverse sorts by mod level automatically, so every mod that you chose to sell and stopped leveling at 6, 9, or 12 all show up first. Filter by the set that you worked on and go to town. A quick second pass with the speed sorting on can be helpful to find some higher rarity mods that showed speed but failed to slice. As you work your way down, you'll start to notice some overlap with older mods, and that's where the other category comes in. When you're trying to start selling from the bulk of mods you've saved up over time, it can be pretty intimidating to approach. The good news for starters is that there are some easy gimmies that you can hunt for and instantly sell if you need to make some room really quickly. If you have them leveled to 15 already, it can also be worth placing them on pilots who you won't use in character PvP to increase their ship strength. Equipped mods don't take up space, so it's functionally the same outcome as selling them, except the credits you spent on them back in the day don't go to waste. The first easy sell target would be speed sets with no speed. Tenacity sets with no tenacity and potency sets with no potency can both make for easy sell targets as well. If the mod rolled a great group of matching stats, or rolled good speed, then I hang on to it, but generally you can just go to town here. Another easy option is to turn on the defense and accuracy primary filters and sort by arrows, triangles, and crosses. If it's not a speed set and not showing high amounts of speed, I pitch it. Once you've knocked out the easy targets, at some point you gotta break out the machete and start chopping through the weeds. This can be a lot of work, and it's probably better if you chip away at it over time, rather than trying to marathon it all at once. Tackling one set type at a time is a great way to do this. Believe me when I say that it feels incredible to open up the sell screen and only see mods I'm selling, or better yet, an empty screen. So what's the best way to tackle this? In my opinion, it doesn't actually start in the sell screen. By using the lock feature and the main interface for mod viewing, we can break things down and get a big picture, and your brain won't be as overstimulated. By dividing and conquering based on set type and slot type, we can keep hunting for the same patterns and stats rather than having to memorize everything simultaneously. Mods are only really competing against other mods that share its slot, and I've found that it's far better to work through your mods based around this concept. For example, if your best circle has 20 speed, and your best square has 13, the square doesn't suddenly lose value because you got a great circle. To start off, make sure that the filter by unequipped button is turned off. Generally speaking, a safe starting approach is to sort by speed, pick a mod slot, start at the top of the list, and start locking the top half of your mods. Once you reach the bottom half of your speed, start searching for mods with good matching secondaries, preferably mods that rolled stats on those matches as well. You can also sort by the stat related to the set type to do a second pass and make sure you didn't miss anything. If it's a stat type that exists in the primary category for that mod slot, make sure to activate the secondary filter for it. Any mod that's good, or makes a good slicing candidate, or has good stat synergy together, we lock in. Anything that has bad stat matches, rolled poorly, or doesn't have a strong identity, we leave unlocked for selling. With the process of locking all these mods, it's important that you build the habit of unlocking a mod once it's no longer a mod worth keeping. Think of the lock button as something like a hell yeah button. When you see a mod that you love, you lock it in. When a mod slices poorly and frustrates you or disappoints you, rip that lock off and throw it in the trash. It's best that you judge your collection based on what you have now, rather than making assumptions about the mod's quality on a more global scale. A mod that might be bad for a long-term mod farmer will still be core to a collection that's in its early stages. Everyone has to start somewhere, and there's no shame in working with what you have. As your collection improves over time, the bad mods will naturally fall to the bottom and become sell candidates. Once it's time to sell, turn on the filter for the mod set type you worked on and go to town. You can also use this as an opportunity to double check yourself and make sure you didn't miss anything. One unique advantage of this workflow is that you can actually use the select all button for selling every mod if you want, as long as you know that you did your locking correctly. Being the paranoid soul that I am, I prefer to skim over the mods as I'm selling them again just to make sure that I didn't miss something. But if time is a critical factor to you, this option is there. Just please make sure you did your locking correctly. Nobody wants to lose a mod that they didn't want to lose. There's one topic that I know would come up if I didn't mention it, so I want to address it here. Character stashing. To explain, the concept is the topic of taking characters that you don't intend to use, bringing them to level 50, and using them as a sort of mod locker to free up some space. On a technical level, this concept works. Equipped mods don't take up room, so if you stash some mods, you'll have room. On a personal level, this method has never felt like a good idea to me for a few reasons. First off, it causes a lot of interference with modding features like filter by unequipped, which is hugely important to me when I'm remodding my account. It's really hard to easily get a picture of what mods I have left for remaining characters if I'm having to constantly flip back and forth to double check if there are any mods on a character I used for stashing. Secondly, it inflates your GP. I don't think I really needed to say more here. Thirdly, I think it's better to build a system that's designed to prevent you from getting stuck in this situation in the first place. Using characters as mod lockers is a temporary solution to a problem that will come back with a vengeance in another couple of weeks, except this time you've got even more mods to deal with. If you've got the mentality to approach this method correctly, I'm sure there are examples where it can be successful, but personally, I'm not wired to think that way. I've tried it a couple of times, I've always hated it, and I'd really rather just not. As long as you stick to the plan laid out over the course of this series, you should notice a positive change in your modding experience from now on. In a broad perspective, this method actually ends up being a really organized system, which feels funny to me considering I'm the opposite of organized in most other aspects of my life. The beauty of this method to me is that it doesn't feel like you're spending a ton of time organizing. You just handle them in a specific way that ends up being organized, and when you hit the sell screen, the mods you want to get rid of end up sticking out like a sore thumb. There's a natural ebb and flow to this whole system that we'll get to in the next video where we talk about slicing. For now, get to work on hacking away at those dirty mods clogging up your account. I'll see you there.